Hi everyone, I'm Dignitas. I'm here with Team Dignitas' League of Legends team's jungler, Crumbzz. Crumbzz, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing very well and nice to be here.
Alright, so we're going to talk about some of the jungle changes here in Season 5, the competitive season for Season 5, and the changes to the LCS. So, first of all, jungle items. That was going right into it. One of the really big things Riot changed with the Season 5 preseason patch. What do you think of the four new jungle items, the four new smites?
I really like the idea behind all the items. You have one to just have kind of a slow, an extra CC and a little bit of burst to your ganks. You have the poachers that like counter jungling, making that effective. Or you have the one that pretty much seems to only work on Warwick that you do extra damage per hit. And then you have Rangers. And to be honest, the first three are extremely underwhelming in comparison to the last one, the one that has an AoE smite, stuns the creeps, heals you, and has a shorter cooldown. Even though the damage is not that high, that's really all you need. You just want to be using smite more and more and more, and that will allow you to get levels faster. And it's really a shame that one is so much better than the other one. So I'd like to see them all kind of be buffed, and like the concepts are cool, just how there's so many different concepts with Dragon and Baron and what they do, but the numbers aren't there to make the item succeed.
Well, one change suggested was just make it so that smite is always on a 45-second cooldown, except if you smite a champion, in which case it goes on a 60-second cooldown. What do you think of that?
Hmm. I think that's still a problem because what happens is the jungle is so much stronger now, so you need to use smite to kill it. Like you need to be smiting it to get your levels faster, and you're using smite in that, but then at the same time you finish your jungle and there's such a downtime that you have to go for a gank because it's 100 seconds per camp, and then you don't have smite up because you use it to clear all that really quickly. So then you can't find the right balance between using smite against a champion or using smite in the jungle, and that really puts some champions behind that just can't. Like it would be really nice to have a smite slow on certain champions, like Fiddlesticks with back gank would probably be really nice if you can smite them, slow them, and like, do a little bit of extra burst, but it's just not happening for him because you need that mana regen, right? Same goes with other champions. So I think just a number tweak and messing around with the cooldowns and maybe like I haven't really thought too much about how to balance it out, but I'd say you really need to make sure that there is a maybe like a gold incentive to smiting a champion.
Okay. So you mentioned the changes to Dragon and Baron they did. Do you think those are right now? Do you think they're underpowered? They're overpowered? Do you think they were? Do you like the direction they're going, making it so that a dragon isn't the same as just taking a turret somewhere?
I actually really enjoy the changes because the first dragon, that's the only thing that I have a problem with because you have Pantheon soloing it at level 2. There's many ways to cheese your dragon, and you can pretty much do it at level 1 because since the attack is in such a low cooldown, unlike before, it's very simple to dance the dragon around, making it deal no damage, just confusing it, and you just do it for free, and you get that nice little buff for your whole team early on. And it doesn't really snowball too hard, but I still don't like the fact that you can cheese things like that. Those big objectives for me, I'm not a fan of that kind of play. But as the game progresses, I feel like all 5 of the buffs are really nice, and it makes the map a lot more dynamic than just how it was before. Oh, it's 20 minutes in the game. Dragon side doesn't matter. We only need to fight Baron side now. Baron is the only thing that matters. Now, like no, every single dragon counts, right? Like you're behind, you weren't. It's like, oh, we need better wave clear. We need to get the second dragon. It's like, oh, we got to push. Like we have a backdoor team. We need to make sure that we get the fourth dragon, things like that. And then the fifth one, that's a huge dragon everybody wants that. So it really makes the teams have to think a lot more strategically in their warding in the late game. So it's not just the top side of the map. But I also really, one of my favorite changes with the Dragon and Baron happened to be that they made Baron spawn at 20 minutes. So it now no longer feels like an objective that can be taken in the early game. It's always a mid game to late game objective. Or like you really need to be sure and be very strong to be able to take it. It's not, oh, we picked Nunu and Max and Zoom, we solo Dragon, you solo Baron, things like that. So I really like that those buffs are being put in the dragon in the overall game, every part of the game, and the Baron, and specifically the late game aspect, and I guess some of the mid game. And the the banner command change, since you have banner command combo with Baron, makes her incredibly good pushes. And if you look at the changes that they did with the dragon buffs with Baron, it seems all of it is in a combination to counter turtling. So for AKA like Ziggs or Xerath, because you can have a Baroned up team with banner of command, and the siege turret, the siege cannon minion is just going to take the entire base because your AP long range APs can't clear it, which is really entertaining. And I think it's a smart idea as to how to beat these really heavy turtle comps.
So when Riot talks about this change in strategic diversity, which you said you think they accomplished, or at least started to accomplish with the Dragon Baron, you think a lot of these like niche items like Banner of Command are going to start actually becoming, usable just because you're thinking, oh hey, they have a Xerath, we need to grab Banner of Command and have this one ridiculous minion taking down the enemy base.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really smart idea, like increasing play, the ability to adapt each game further and further with your item selection. Because before you kind of bought the same items every time on pretty much every champion. Kind of your role is like if you're an AP mid, you buy Grail, you buy Deathcap, you buy Void. If you're a jungle, you buy like Lizard and then Sightstone and then Tank. If you're AD carry like Infinity Edge, all this stuff. So now you have, it's like, oh, okay, look, we have they have a Pope champion, but they have a long range AD. Maybe we shouldn't get Banner of Command. Let's get something else. So as long as that progresses in the right step towards making each game have different item selection, more item diversity, I think the game will be in a lot better place. Because it stales out, right? Everybody, like, it's boring when you're like, oh, I know what he's going to buy. I'm not even going to look at his items. Now it's like you have to press tab all the time. Especially, it'd be really entertaining in a tournament setting where you're the audience and then you look at an item like, whoa, I can't believe he bought this right now. That's crazy. I never even thought he would do that. Things like that.
All right. So the last piece of the changes to jungling is the champions. Who's going to be stronger? Who's going to be weaker? Right now we're seeing Pantheon and Warwick are being really popular picks. Do you think there's anyone who's like sleeper OP that no one's really playing very much? Any thoughts you have on the champion changes in for the Season 5 jungle?
Right now in the new jungle, they try to make the whole map be more alive, more of a jungle. Like, oh, you're in here fighting all these super strong monsters, and they are a lot stronger. So you need to prioritize heavy sustain now, or have champions that have shields, or just really high like lifesteal or regen, like Fiddlesticks and Warwick, which those two right now in solo queue are very strong. And then you also have champions like Pantheon and Nunu, which also have Pantheon on one hand has a shield, which with blue buff allows him to practically take no damage from the jungle, and also allows for practically level 2 solo dragon, which is really broken, and Nunu with the consume max. So a lot of champions that we saw before, like Lee Sin and Kha'Zix, don't really have that much sustain, and Rengar as well. So they can't farm the whole jungle in one go and just gank right off the bat. So those champions kind of lose a little bit of the early game. There are ways to play around it, but they're not as strong in the early game. Granted, you still want to play those champions because they're just strong in general. It doesn't matter if they're jungling less effectively in the early game or not. But any sleeper champions right now, I'd say that a lot of the Devourer on Rangers. So you get the Rangers Trailblazer, that item which allows you to farm heavily. So you farm really fast and you get your stacks up, which is kind of the equivalent of what Feral Flare was last split. And that allows champions like Shyvana Jungle, right, to be really, really played, or Master Yi. I mean, I don't think we'll see Master Yi anytime soon, and probably not Shyvana. But I think champions like Kayle can really benefit from that, because she used to be a pretty decent jungler. But now with the attack speed, you get a magic damage on hit that starts right off the bat. You don't have to charge your flare, and you get the stacks like practically as soon as you commit, you finish the item. So that's pretty good on her. And same goes with any other champions that you might get use that on, like Nocturne and things like that. So I think for now, all the attack speed reliant champions might be pretty good. But like champions that I really think are fun and I'd like to play competitive would be Skarner. Honestly, because the Battlecast Skarner skin has a big part in that, because I think it's a really nice skin. but I think he's actually pretty good.
So one thing that was also discussed a little bit was how some junglers, in theory, could take the blue smite, the slowing true damage one, whose name is escaping me right now, and they could play very just gank all the time. So like season two, early season three style jungling where you just gank, gank, gank. You don't farm. You use your smite aggressively. So people like Evelyn or Lee Sin. Do you think that's a viable option competitively? Like obviously you starve yourself if you get behind, but do you think it's viable to just be like gank, 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 and try to get all your lanes far enough ahead that it doesn't matter, or is that style too risky?
I think that style is obviously just focused on heavy snowball, right? You just want to snowball the game as quickly as possible, get a crazy lead. But I don't think that's putting too much into the snowball because it's so incredibly risky, and the rewards can be just as large if you don't take that smite. You can be ganking just as much with the other one. You don't necessarily need that smite slow doesn't make your ganks like 20 times better, right? If you're getting the gank, the smite is not going to be the difference between getting it and not, especially in competitive play. You're getting the gank because you found a better position. If you need a 20% slow to get a gank, then that's probably not the best way to start snowballing a game. So I think that that's just too risky, to be honest. You just want to take the other one and kind of just farm it out. Like, not necessarily farm it out, but use it more towards farming. I've seen in solo queue many junglers take that, but so far in scrims and talking to other junglers, nobody really wants to even bother with that item because it's just such a high risk, high reward, and the damage just isn't there, to be honest. Like especially late game, you have like let's say it gets to late game, the AD carry has a bloodthirster. You can't even break his bloodthirster shield with your smite. So and then, like let's say a fight happens at Baron, and then you put your eggs in the smite basket, and you have to not use it on the enemy champion. You have to save it for that objective. So you have to really be careful with that. And the lower cooldown on the Rangers just really makes objective game around buffs and Dragon and Baron a lot easier because it's a lower cooldown. And it also stops creep waves with the stun, which is really handy.
All right. So then, talking about other junglers, we just had the expansion tournaments for both the NA and EU LCS. What do you think about the changes to a 10 team format, and most importantly, how does that affect both the LCS and the challenger scene? Because it does pull two more teams out of the challenger scene.
When the LCS was announced to have two more teams, the initial reaction that everybody had was, this is a bad idea. The teams here are barely good in the first place. How are they going to be like? These teams are barely able to make it into the LCS. They barely made it into the LCS with the 10-team edition. How are they going to compete with the top two? We thought they're going to be the bottom teams like all throughout. They're just in it to be last, pretty much. And we haven't really had a chance to see these teams compete against LCS teams yet. So I think that is a little unfair to say just yet. But I do think that the LCS teams that have been there before, like the previous maybe top 5, probably like top 8 this time around, like the first 8 teams have a much easier time in the LCS when it begins. Because I do think that the last 2 teams that arrive into the LCS would have a harder time playing in it, just because they're more amateur players, less experience. Maybe the nerves can get to them. I mean, after all, most of the tournament of the challenger scenes are in online, right? They don't have that much LAN practice. Granted, a lot of these teams won't have that many nerve problems. Like, for instance, you have Team LOL Pro, I believe, that has veteran players, has St. Vicious on it, Chris on Team Coast, Impaler on Team Coast, Jezz, all these veteran players. But I think that the mashup with these teams, how the players get to know each other and play and get along with each other, isn't at the level that the LCS top teams are going to be at. So I do think that the expansion is going to be the right step for the league in terms of adding more talent and just making sure that that more teams can participate and making it more lucrative for somebody to be looking to get into it. Just because 8 teams sounds pretty exclusive. Now you add 10, and eventually maybe you add more. it sounds like something that you could do in, right? And try to make it look, I don't know, like NFL, something like that. There's a lot of teams there, so you do have a good opportunity of getting into one of those if the chance arises. So I think it's definitely a step in the right direction, but I think it's just a move for the future and not something that we should be criticizing just yet because it's not going to start out perfectly.
All right. So then, speaking actually about experience, so when we, along with the announcement that Team Dignitas was re-signing you, we also announced that you're our team captain now. Especially how does that work? You know, they're talking about. I guess these two questions go together. We're talking about coaches being able to talk in Team Select now. Champion Select, they're officially recognized as members of the team by Riot. So how does your role as a captain work along with having a coach, or work alongside the role of a coach?
I mean, right now we currently don't have a coach, so I'm not entirely sure how that would pan out. But before we used to just do the draft. Like I would know the majority of the draft that we're gonna do, like the picks and bans. We all know them. You could have asked each one of our players what we were gonna pick the next day, and we could have told you a pretty good outline as to what we wanted to do in the situation that this happened or X happened, and we would all be on the same page. So I think that adding the coach would be a nice reminder, and maybe he can be thinking more on the draft than us. Like we're thinking mentally, okay, let's get ready, be cool, be calm, um, play how you play to your scrims, things like that. Don't let outside troubles cloud your mind, all this stuff. So you can't actually devote all your thought to the picks and bans. Well, the coach can actually do that now because he's going to be a part of it, so he can help us out. And I think yesterday we saw the first OGN match start, and we saw the coaches sit in the back of the players, just talking to them over their shoulder, be like, "No, look, do this, do that." They have their pencils and papers, writing things down, noting what would be useful in that first set and the second one, and just it's helping out like that. I mean, I think as it progresses, it would definitely be a nice change. And once we get some time with it, you'd say, wow, I could have never done this without a coach. It's so much better with a coach in it. But for now, without a coach, I'm focusing more as to how to do it on my own, right? Like not just on my own, but as a team as a whole, as to understanding how we want to play the game out, because we know ourselves better than anyone else. So that eventually will be heightened to another level with the addition of a coach. But for now, it's just us.
All right, so then looking at the junglers that are in North America this season, we're going to get a little bit of a preview, I guess, at IEM San Jose as far as what this season's looking like. But who do you think are going to be the top junglers this season, especially in North America, but maybe outside of North America? Who do you think is especially going to be really quick to adapt to all the changes and all the new styles?
I heard that apparently the more veteran junglers are having an easier time in the jungle now than the more up and coming junglers, which from my experience in solo queue may be the case, but I think that is quite a big statement to make with practically no basis. I think that right now the junglers that we'll see shine are probably the Cloud9 and TSM junglers, Santorin and Meteos, the two junglers at the top. And I think that the one that we're going to see that really surprise everyone, that I think is going to be doing quite well, will also be I'll Dominate from Curse. I think that those three will probably be the best junglers in NA right now, just because they all have experience and they all really have deep champion pools. They're not stuck to each one. They're willing to take risk in their picks and their play as well. And I think that that's going to be paying off dividends in this new split, because sometimes you get the feeling that the jungle just doesn't have as much impact as it had before, especially in the early game. So I feel like the players that are willing to take bigger risks are going to be the ones that are going to shine. So maybe a new coming jungler that's going to be just completely crazy and just go for crazy things early would be doing really well. But I think that that's probably not going to happen, especially somebody just brand new to the LCS wouldn't really want to go for something that's absolutely out of anyone's spot right now. So I think that those three would definitely be the better ones.
All right. So that about covers things. Do you have any final remarks or shoutouts you want to make?
Well, just shout out to all the Dignitas fans. To be honest, I mean, a lot of them kind of just fizzled out, especially since we're taking so long with the announcement as to our new roster. You know, we say we have it and all that, but I mean, we're just trying to take it easy because we feel like this is the better option for the health of the team as a unit of five. Not announcing it right off the bat and creating all these incredible expectations from the get go, right? You know, just get to know each other, play and play it out, see how these tournaments go out, and then from then on, you know, start building a reputation for how each player plays, not just from the get go, and be like, these are the shoes you have to fill, this is how well you have to play. You're going to be this much better because we're thinking that you were incredible back here and now you're going to be even better here. So I think that puts a lot of unfair pressure into a new coming player. So we didn't really want to do that. And unfortunately, the fans kind of took the hit on that just because it's kind of hard to cheer for a team that you don't even know who it is. So I mean, soon it'll be announced, and thank the fans for the patience.
All right, and also thank you to all of Team Dignitas' sponsors, and thank you for watching. Bye.
Welcome to the YouTube channel of Team Dignitas. We are five very happy guys, and he's ugly, he's funny, he's not, he's also funny. Please subscribe, we're gonna love you, and hug you, and kiss you, and spoon you.